And I've been asked to speak with you because Belmont Abbey College finds itself in the most unlikely position of battling a Goliath, the federal government. The major difference between David and us is that he at least had a rock and a slingshot. But I've always, in all things, trusted in divine providence. And like Job, who said, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. As it has pleased the Lord, so it is done. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Note, observes St. Augustine, Job does not say, "The Lord gave and the devil has taken away," but says, wise that he is, "The Lord gave my children and possessions, and it is he who has taken them away, and it has been done as it pleased the Lord." A survivor of 5-year solitary confinement in Lubyanka prison, followed by 15 years of hard labor in a Siberian prison camp, once said, "You do not need to discern God's will. This moment is God's will. This moment is perfect." Now, when I heard that from someone who had been tortured every day of their life for over 20 years, almost not surviving, telling me this moment, no matter what's happening, is perfect, think how often we complain about what's happened to us in this day, how often we don't accept the little inconveniences that happen to us. If you think about it, it makes sense. To God, there is no past and future. All time is present to God. So think about this. To the degree we remain in this present moment is the degree to which we remain in perfect union with God. If we ruminate about things that happened in the past or are anxious about things in the future, we are leaving Him. We are called to be in this present moment. In our ignorance of what the future holds, how can we be so bold as to question what comes by God's permission? Surely it's reasonable to think that our complaints are groundless, and that instead of complaining, we ought to be thanking Providence. G.K. Chesterton had a wonderful line. He said, "The best kind of giving is thanksgiving." If we overlook praise and thanksgiving in our own personal lives and do not pray as a family each day, do not pray as a family each day. If we neglect this, we have lost before we haven't even begun to fight. I'm a busy person. I know you're a busy individuals in your lives with all that you do. Today, I knew I couldn't call tonight, but whether I'm working, traveling, wherever I might be, I call in to my family every day and we pray, even if it's me on a speakerphone in the house. These are things you can do, but I can tell you without prayer in our lives, in our families, we have no hope of ever winning this. It is only going to be through the strengthening of our families and through prayer that we will have sufficient strength and the ability to cooperate with the grace God is giving us to do what He's calling us to. So trusting in divine providence is not always an easy thing to do. Trusting is not, by the way, the sin of presumption, where we just sit back and say, "Okay, God, you go take care of it all. I'll see how it all turns out." No, it is our duty, and hopefully it is our fervent desire to cooperate with God's grace. And as the parable of the talents, which I love the parable of talents. It's Matthew 25, 14 to 30. What I love about it is that each was given according to their ability. Not everybody got the same thing, but they were all asked to do the same thing with what they were given. They were all asked to double it. And what's doubled in statistics? 100%. All. We have been asked to give back all. We are stewards. We are not owners. And so with these talents, and you are very talented people. I'm floored by the people I've met since I've only been in this less than a year. I'm floored by the talent in this room. It's easy to forget. It's easy to slide away. It's easy to be moved into those that we would criticize or that we would consider adversaries to what we are trying to do. I've often asked people, what's the most motivating thing in the world to any person? And most times I hear money, power, fame, pleasure. I'll tell you right now, it's none of those things. The most motivating thing to any human being is love. I know you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, a love talk." Yeah, it's love, and I'll prove it to you. I'll give you each $1 billion. I'll make you president. I don't know if you want to be, but I'll make you president. But here's the stipulation. In order to have that, you have to live on a deserted island for the rest of your lives. Anybody going to take that deal? A few tired parents out there would like 2 or 3 weeks on the island maybe, but nobody is going to take it forever. And why are we not going to take it forever? Because there's something missing. If money, power, fame, and pleasure were truly the most motivating things, we would take the deal. But we don't take it because what's missing on that island are people, and the potential for relationships, and the potential for love. But love requires something. It requires something from us that we could have kept for ourselves. That means sacrifice. It is the paradox of life that the only time you will ever truly be happy is when you have sacrificed, when you have been other-focused. Whereas if there's an inordinate desire for pleasure, money, power, fame, whatever you want to pick out, which is self-focused, it initially seems to fill us up. But in the end, we are going to be left empty. Matter of fact, it's where addictive personalities come from. Instead of filling ourselves up with the truth, we try to fill ourselves up with something that cannot do it. And it's never sufficient, and we seek those things out to an extreme. But since love is sacrifice, and it requires taking on some kind of pain or discomfort, even if willingly done so, the question is, can you take it? Now, I want you to imagine for me right now somebody that you love so much that you would die for them. Get somebody in your mind, okay? Somebody you would love that you would die for. Now, I don't know how it happens, but they're up here on this table. And this table burst into flames. Are you going to come up here and help this person off the table? If I'm that person right now, I'm not feeling too confident. Are you going to come up here and get this person off the table? Okay, you had me worried for a second. Now, I tell you, though, when you pull them off of here, you are going to burn your wrist right down to the bone. You still going to do it? Yes. I like that, okay. Now, I pull out a flamethrower. I burn all your wrists down to the bone. Same burn, same pain. One you can take, one you can't take. Pain without a purpose is intolerable to human beings. And so the question really becomes, what is a strong enough purpose for what we're going to be faced with in life, for some of the big sacrifices that may come our way? Well, I'm going to give you my 3 clues. First one is God exists. Even the New York Times, I think, had a survey that said, I think 98% of Americans believe in a higher being. So, there's probably, not in this room, I'm sure, but there's probably a couple out there that might not. Well, if God exists, then there's automatically got to be some relationship between me and God, even if I'm not doing anything with it. If he exists, he exists. Just because I say he doesn't mean he stops existing. Second clue. The only thing I've only been given one thing. You've only been given one thing. Think about this. Anything that you have can be taken away from you in a fraction of a second. Your spouse, your family, children, home, cars, your legs, your health, bam, gone in a second. The only thing you're left with is how you're going to deal with it. By the grace of God, he gave us free will. And I often wondered, why did he give us that? Well, what if I told you right now, there's going to be somebody coming in here in a moment, I'm paying them $5,000 a day to say they love you. And they come in here and they look you in the eye and they say, I love you. Yeah, you kind of say, yeah, right, sure you do. I know you're being paid $5,000 a day to say it. It doesn't mean anything to me at this point. You're kind of compelled by the $5,000. Now, I don't know how this happens, but God actually walks into this room right now. Anybody going to leave this room? I'm not leaving this room. And God says, do you love me? Now, some people have said to me, what about the atheist? I said, the atheist thing is all over. God's in the room. And when he says, do you love me, even the atheist at this point, knowing what the other answer would lead to, is going to say, oh, yeah. And at that point, we're sort of compelled to say yes. The reason we've been given free will is so that we can love, so that we can freely choose. Third clue. Hate to be morbid, but it's true. We're all going to die. Now, give me an age. Couple of age. How long might you live to? Let me hear a couple.
105.
I like the optimist here. We'll go with this table, 105, okay? Now, what I want you to do for me is imagine right now the worst possible pain you could imagine. I'm sorry to do that to you, I know. But just for a second, think of the worst possible pain you can imagine. Don't tell anybody, just, you got something? Now, with a snap of your finger for me, show me how fast a second is. Ready? Go. Show me half a second. 100th of a second. 1,000th of a second. I got some people still trying. 1,000,000th of a second. Let's make it ridiculous. Let's make it 1,000,000th of a second. If that pain you just imagined would come and go in 1,000,000th of a second, and there would be absolutely no after effect at all, could you take it? I'm looking at people, yeah, you wouldn't even know you had it. But let's go back to the age thing for a second. Said we might live to 105. In relation to all time, all eternity, how long is 105 years? In essence, it's faster than 1,000,000th of a second. And you just told me you could take the worst pain in the world for that time. That's your life. And it's embarrassing. God has plucked us down here, and he's just asking one question. Do you love me? And he's put us here for the shortest amount of time. I mean, can you imagine going home to somebody and saying, could you love me for 1,000,000th of a second? They would look like you're out of your mind. And yet God in his mercy says, I'm going to put you here for the shortest amount of time so you can choose me. And he says, do you love me? Now, all of us, if he asked us, we're all going to say yes, I assume. But I don't know about you. The way I know people is I watch them. I hope what they say matches what they do, but in the end, I'm going to know them by what they do. And yet, think of ourselves. We're like insane people. Oh, today was so hard. I didn't get the parking space. My thing fell through. This happened. Something fell on my suit. We're crazy people. 1,000,000th of a second, do you love me? It's like, I'm caught up in my stuff. Well, that's happened in my life. Well, one of the ways that we have said yes was by filing a lawsuit, the first lawsuit against the federal government over the HHS mandate. Because we believe that the President of the United States has no right to take away anybody's religious freedom. None. He has no right to do it. So I really can't understand how he is going to compromise and give back something he never had the right to take in the first place. We at Belmont Abbey College are not powerful, we're not famous, we have no wealth, but we are willing to die for what we believe. And I can tell you, that is the kind of resolve that you and I are going to need if we are going to take back this country and make it what God and our founding fathers intended it to be. There are tens of millions of people, if not more, tens of millions of Americans who are thinking just the same as we are. And the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, they had a great strategy. What they did is they put a spy in every block and every building, and you didn't know who you could trust. And even though you lived amongst millions, you felt completely isolated and alone. Well, this secular humanism, which is infiltrated into our government and everything that we're doing, has done the same thing to us. It has given us a sense of isolation and that somehow we are alone. And it's just my little remnant family and me. Well, my little family, 10, it's not that little, but, but it's just us. It's little old us fighting against the whole world. That is not true. There are more of us than there are of them. And we've got to act. We need to stay unified. We need to focus on religious freedom. And we need to overwhelm our adversaries to such a degree that they will not only rescind or remand this entire Obamacare and mandate, but that they would see it as political suicide in the future to ever venture near our constitutional rights again. So together, we leave this weekend, a great weekend, with great people. Coming together like this gives me great hope. It shows me that we are together. This is a massive effort. This is a massive group. And again, we got to do this on a scale that will overwhelm. That means we got to act. You have to really do things. Make calls, write letters, go out in the street, whatever you got to do, but don't sit there and complain about it or tell us what's not happening. So together, let's resolve that we are going to go forward and we are going to do what we say we believe. Thank you, and God bless you.